Hello, this is Mrs. Sasek. Today's video is the original 10 amendments and the Bill of Rights. This is your title for your notes. Remember to write anything in purple and to be listening for any other important notes or doodles along the way that you need to also include in your notes. Today our guiding questions are: what are the Bill of Rights? What rights do each of the first 10 amendments protect? And how are these amendments applied in real life? Amendment 1 has actually 5 freedoms. The first freedom we are going to discuss is the freedom of religion. The government cannot create an official religion for our country, nor can it prohibit you from worshiping your religion. Or can it prevent you from not choosing to worship a religion? Please draw one of the religious symbols that you see in the United States on the lower left-hand corner on the slide. One of the ways I can think about this amendment being practiced is a student of my husband had many years ago. She was Muslim, and when you are Muslim, you pray 5 times a day. So during the school day, when it was her time to pray, she would quietly leave class, pray in the hallway, and quietly return to class. If the school had prevented her from doing this, they would be violating her First Amendment rights. We've also seen this before in the Virginia Declaration of Rights. If you remember, George Mason wrote in the Declaration of Rights that all men are entitled for the free exercise of religion according to how they feel, or if they choose not to freely exercise a religion or believe in something, they have that freedom as well. The second freedom in Amendment 1 is called the freedom of speech. Draw this gentleman that you see on the right-hand side. He is standing up and speaking his mind. This speech is a wonderful part of our amendment freedoms because it means that you have the ability to speak out on whatever you would like to choose. However, as we are going to talk about later in class, freedom of speech does have limits in particular cases. Some of them are in school, as you know. You notice that you have to be careful what you say in certain places about people. If they are harmful or offensive, that is not a place to use your freedom of speech. Amendment 3 is freedom of press. The government cannot prevent what the newspapers, the media, the journalists, the reporters, television, magazines, what they can say. Can or cannot say, I should say. So when you think about the Revolution, the Stamp Act, we talked about how the freedom of the press was no longer available due to the Stamp Act. That owner of the Pennsylvania Journal, William Bradford, had to go out of business, and he was saying goodbye to freedom of the press because he could no longer afford to share the news with the people. Because of technology and social media, freedom of the press also, has includes these apps, these companies. So it's a huge amendment, huge freedom that we are able to have. We also see this again in the Virginia Declaration of Rights. George Mason again writes that freedom of the press is one of the great works of liberty, and it should not be restrained by governments. Our last 2 freedoms in Amendment 1 is the freedom to assemble peacefully and the freedom to petition the government. So the freedom of assembly is really another way of saying that the people have a right to protest peacefully. So you see this a lot living in this area, people going to the Capitol with signs and rallies and sharing how they feel about a particular topic or issue. As long as they assemble peacefully and in a legal manner, meaning usually they have to get permission to let people know so the police can make sure everyone is safe. If you want to do marches, they can close down roads for you. This is a great way for Americans to share how they feel about a topic. Also, we have the right to petition the government. So if we feel that the government has wronged us in a way, we have the right to let them know, to speak out against the government, which kind of goes back with freedom of speech. We have a right to sue the government if we feel like our rights have been violated. This is an amazing freedom that we had that was not available to us under the tyranny of King George III. So when the Founding Fathers were thinking about these lists of rights they wanted to include, they wanted to make sure that we had the ability to speak out against the government. Amendment 2 says it is a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. What does it mean to bear arms? Bear arms means to carry or own firearms. So yes, we're talking about guns, gun rights, and this lately, especially the last few years, has been a very controversial topic about gun rights and some people not wanting the Second Amendment, and but there are people who feel like this amendment still applies today, that they have the right to own a weapon for self-defense or for whatever right they would like to have it for, mostly protection. But people do use it for sport. You need to go hunting or just shooting. It's still around today. Amendment 3, no soldier shall in a time of peace be quartered in any house without consent of the owner, nor in a time of war, but in a manner prescribed by law. Sound familiar? Quartering Act during the Revolution or right before the Revolution. Founding Fathers did not want soldiers to be forced upon the people, just like the British had forced the soldiers into their homes before the Revolution during the Intolerable Acts. So you can say no. If a soldier asks to come to your house, you can say no. So it's a very important issue. Remember, when they were writing this, the Revolution and the Acts and Taxes were still very fresh in their mind. Same with Amendment 2 and Amendment 1 and the next amendment that we are going to talk about. Amendment 4 protects people from unlawful searches and seizures. This means the police cannot search you or your house without warrant or probable cause. So a warrant is a special form of permission from a judge saying that the police believe that they think that you have something in your home or on your property or on yourself that is illegal. And if the police come to your door and they ask to search your house for whatever reason, you can say no. However, if they say that they have a warrant to search your home for whatever item or thing or person they need, you cannot say no. You have to let the police in. During the Acts and Taxes time, we talked about this, the British soldiers would often search and take things out of people's homes without any reason, without any warrants, without any permission from the judges. So this was a very important freedom that people wanted to have. Amendment 5 deals with a lot of things. Grand juries, double jeopardy, self-incrimination, which means I plead the fifth. We'll talk about that in the next slide. Due process and eminent domain. What I would like you to know for this part is that if you are accused of a crime, that you have the right to due process. That means any citizen charged with a crime will be given a fair trial. And there is a specific process that everyone has to go through by the government to make sure that you have a fair trial as an accused person. The next part of this amendment is I plead the fifth. So when somebody says I plead the fifth, or I choose to plead the fifth, or I want my Fifth Amendment rights, you cannot be required to answer any questions or provide information that may make you look guilty. So if you look at the picture of the puppy, you see that there is toilet paper everywhere and looking at the camera like, what did I do wrong? Now, if you were to look at this picture, you would assume that who made that mess? the dog, okay? And I love the cartoon next to it too. Does the Fifth Amendment apply to report cards? So that joke of, well, it is your report card, you know, of course we know it's going to be you who is responsible for your grades. So that is what I plead the Fifth is. You are not required to answer questions that may make you look bad.